Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Nick Connors. I'm the Director of the Green Communities Program here at DOER.
Hold on.
Up there?
Yeah. The
one more, one down.
Below.
Oh. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Nick Connors. I'm the Director of the Green Communities Program here at DOER. I just wanted to take a minute to thank each of you that have joined us for your efforts over the years. And if this is your first time at the annual report, it's my first time as well, because this is my first full year here as director. I also wanted to thank in particular our staff, Joanne and Neil, who put together the program today to walk everyone through the completion of an annual report. Everyone on our staff has taken a hard look this year at trying to simplify the reporting structure and make sure that we make this something that is not a heavy lift for you all and something that we can also get through and get the necessary information from everyone. We're always open to hearing ideas on ways we can improve it in the future, but we think we took a good first step this year, and hopefully there'll be continuous improvement as we go forward. With that, I'll step aside and let Joanne and Neil get into the meat of the program. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is Joanne speaking. Again, thank you for tuning into our webinar. My partner in crime today is Neil Duffy, the Northeast Regional Coordinator. We're going to tag team on this webinar. Those of you who are somewhat new to our program, the Green Communities Division is, of course, involved with the Green Communities Program, but we're also involved with anything energy related to municipalities. So we're sort of a clearinghouse for anything energy related to all 351 cities and towns. You do not have to be a green community to talk to us. We offer a suite of different resources and programs for municipalities. Of course, our hallmark program is the Green Communities Designation and Grant Program. But we also have the Municipal Energy Technical Assistance grants we've been providing. We also provide the MassEnergyInsight program, which is the online energy benchmarking and tracking tool. We also provide assistance with energy management system contracts. And we have a website that's filled with tools and resources. We have past webinars posted there, as well as guidelines and best practices and so forth. So please check it out. I would be remiss if we didn't talk about our regional coordinators. They're essentially our ambassadors on the ground throughout the state. They're key to the function of our program at the local level, and hopefully you folks have already connected with them, but not, please make note of your regional coordinator. Jim Barry's in the Western region. He's in the Springfield DEP office. Kelly Brown is in the Worcester area, and she's in the Worcester DEP office. Seth Pickering is in the Southeast region. He serves the South Coast and Cape and Islands. He's in the Lakeville office of DEP, and Neil Duffy is in the Northeast office in Wilmington. So please make note of their faces, their numbers, and their emails. Just a couple of notes on upcoming events. We're going to, attempt to do one webinar a month, give or take, and we do have one scheduled for December. It's on December 7th at 11 a.m., and it's going to be about the SMART program, the new solar incentive program that DOER is rolling out. We're going to tailor the information specifically for cities and towns. And if you have any questions or topics you would like this particular webinar to address, please email them to me, and we will try to incorporate them as we're able. And also, if you have ideas for other webinar topics, I'm also interested in hearing what those are. So please let me know. A little bit about today's presentation. We're going to be, it's going to be recorded and posted on our website in about 48 hours. If you find a slide that you particularly like and you want to save, there's a camera icon in the upper right-hand corner of your screen. And if you click on that, it will take a screenshot of the slide so you can refer to it later. And also there is a Q&A icon in the right-hand side of your screen. Feel free to type in questions. We will be saving time at the end for a Q&A, so we will address questions then. And any questions we cannot address either due to time or due to us needing to do a little more digging. Those will be posted as well on the website along with the webinar files. So today what we're going to talk about is, basically why do we make you do annual reports, what we do with the information, and we're going to walk you through the template, and then we'll have questions at the end. So essentially, annual reports are ways in which municipalities confirm that there's still a good green community in good standing. One of the requirements for receiving a green community grant is to be a GC in good standing. So this is how you document that your city or town is still meeting all 5 criteria. In addition, it allows you folks to tell us what's going on in your community related to energy or other related issues. We have great regional coordinators and we hear stories from them, but this is a more formalized way for you to document what's going on in your community. It allows us to track progress in the program on an aggregate level. Also helps us to identify trends that we've seen in multiple municipalities. And lastly, it helps inform future program development and where we go from here. So in terms of analyzing data, most of the data that we analyze is related to the energy consumption, but we also look at miles per gallon for new vehicles that are purchased and see trends over time. And also we use the data to verify communities that have reached their 20% energy reduction goal. We periodically issue progress reports on the Green Communities program. These are covers for some recent additions. And just a little bit about last year's results from 2017. The chart on the left shows energy reduction progress for all green communities who reported, and we had about 130, I think, that did report last year. And overall, there's been an 11% reduction in energy use. Basically, this includes all green communities, those of you that have been with us for a while, and those of you who are new. So not everybody has been in the program for 5 years. That's just a snapshot, essentially, of the results from FY17. The chart on the right shows the proportion of energy reductions by fuel. And you can tell that the electricity bar is the largest, and that's no surprise given the multiple projects that we see in municipal and school buildings for LED lighting upfits. And also it reflects the transformation of streetlights from high pressure sodium to LED as well. So that's the data bears that out. So now we're going to walk you through the annual report. For those of you that are new to us, it's essentially an Excel workbook that has multiple tabs with charts or forms for you to fill out. And this provides you folks an opportunity to tell us how you meet all 5 criteria. This is the first tab. It's called either General Information, and I'm also calling it the Confirmation page. A reminder, the deadline is December 3rd this year, and we want the reports to be emailed to Jane Pfister at the email address located in the report. Please keep it in Excel format. That enables us to manipulate the data and add it to larger databases. However, we do want you to convert this page only to PDF because it's a signature page, and make sure your CEO signs the confirmation. An added note, anything that you see shaded yellow is an indication of a space that we want a response from you. So anything that's yellow is a place to put information. Okay, the next tab is the zoning and permitting information, criteria 1 and 2. Again, we want you to tell us what by right zoning you applied for, which is over here. as well as your expedited permitting. Most folks do have applied through the local permitting option, but there are some communities that have done it through the 43D process. If you need information from your last year's report and you can't find it, contact your regional coordinator. They'll be happy to send it back to you because you may need that either if you forgot what zoning and permitting information you applied under 10 years ago. So just keep that in mind. A new concept this year, and you'll hear me say this in a couple of other places, we only want you to update what's new. So since your last annual report, or since you became designated, if this is your first report, let us know what's changed in terms of your zoning districts, as well as any permitting changes. So if you amended your solar bylaw in 2015 and you told us about it in 2016, you don't need to tell us about it anymore because we already know about it and it's part of the larger master file that we have. Additionally, on this form and other forms, if you see something that says select yes or no, please select yes or no. If you don't, we're going to have to go back and ask you, what are your answers to question 2. So just be mindful of that. And it's shaded yellow, so that indicates a place for you to do something. And I'm just mentioning that because previous years this is often overlooked, so just a reminder. And again, in the narrative, we only want things that have been, that's new. Here's a sample of Table 1 that shows a project that had a decision date in the reporting year. So again, we only want to see information that's new since your last report. If you didn't submit a report last year, we'll want information that's new since 2016. All right, so the Criterion 3, updating or providing updates on your energy use reductions. It's the meat of a lot of the annual report documents. It looks complicated, but we'll walk you through it, and don't get an ice cream headache. We'll walk you through it step by step. So looking at this form here, just follow the steps. So the first step is read and complete all the questions below. Okay, well, number 1 is done. Number 2, complete Table 2. We're going to go back and forth from Table 2 with a couple of slides. But before you do that, you need to do a little preparation with your energy data. Those of you that are using MassEnergyInsight, before you start filling out Table 2, make sure your MassEnergyInsight account is complete and updated. So that means making sure your delivered fuels, which are propane and oil, gasoline and diesel, are all uploaded, as well as any solar or renewable generation that is feeding directly into a building. Make sure it's all uploaded and let it sit overnight for MassEnergyInsight to do its updates overnight. And then the next day, take a look at it and fill out your Table 2. And if you're a MassEnergyInsight user, in this yellow shaded area, please include the date by which you confirm that the data is complete and as accurate as you believe it is. Here's our sample community MassEnergyInsight account, and the way that we recommend you looking at your data to ensure that it's complete is in the report called Data Loaded Detail. So this is where, in this particular community, we're showing FY17 here, but you can see most of the spaces are green, which means there's data there. And our sample town has no natural gas services, so you can see that the propane and oil has been uploaded, and in the appropriate months. Seeing zeros in April, May, and June is okay because you often will not have oil or propane deliveries during those months. Our sample community also has a solar project on a roof that's feeding directly into the building. So you can see that that information is there with the kWh identified. And then lastly, the vehicle fuels are loaded. These do not need to be done monthly, but if you do it annually, make sure it's dated June 30th of the fiscal year. Moving on, we're still in MassEnergyInsight. This is a report called Table 2, Annual Report Table 2 in MassEnergyInsight. And you can see our sample town has their categories listed, and it's the baseline year for our community is 2015. And you'll notice that our Table 2 is formatted in a similar way, so to facilitate using putting the information in. And again, if we only want the reporting year and the baseline year in this chart. So if you reported to us last year, we just want your baseline year and FY18 data. If this is your first annual report, you need to fill in all the years as applicable. So if your baseline year was 2015, we would need information from 2016 and 2017 and 2018. If you did not submit last year, you will need to update it since your last submittal. There are a few communities that don't use MassEnergyInsight, and we provide in our workbook an Excel template for them to report their energy use by category and by building, and this is the form that they would use. Okay, so now we're back at Table 2, and just showing the progress here in the workbook. We're making our way to the right, and our community's energy data for FY15 is uploaded or inputted, and there's our calculations, and the table will automatically calculate the percentages and do the summation, so you don't need to do any math, just plug in the numbers. Okay, we're going to talk a little bit about weather normalization. Those of you that use MassEnergyInsight and have been looking at your data may have noticed that the weather normalization is a little glitchy right now. So just bear with us for a bit. We still want you to report it, but for now, if you have questions about your weather normalized data, please let your regional coordinator know and we'll make note of it. Don't call Peregrine. They know that it's glitchy and they're working on some solutions, but let your regional coordinator know so we can, when we look at your annual report, we can note that the energy data for a certain building is problematic or it's not showing up. Where you get this information is back on the annual report Table 2 report in MassEnergyInsight, and you will just plug in the information here. So now I'm going to pass the microphone over to Neil, who's going to talk about building stock changes.
Thanks, Joanne. So as Joanne said, I'm going to talk about building stock change adjustments that you make to your Table 2. So when you're reporting your energy use, we allow you to prorate energy use for any building stock changes you've made. So, for example, if in your baseline year you have a 20,000 square foot senior center, but then this year you built a new senior center that's 40,000 square feet, let's just say that building used 2,000 MMBTUs of energy, you would be able to subtract half of that energy use because the building is twice as big as the one that was in your baseline. So that's really the simplest example of a building stock change adjustment. So I'm going to walk through the calculator that we have in the annual report to help you come to these calculations. This is the Table 2 that Joanne was just talking about. You can see there's a row here where the information that you're going to be subtracting, the energy use you're going to be subtracting will be input in this row. And if you use the calculator, it will automatically populate in these rows. So the example we're going to go through is for a town that had a new senior center in the reporting year, as well as an addition to a DPW building that was completed 6 months into the fiscal year. To do this, what you will need is the building square footages for both before and after, so the old senior center and the new senior center, the DPW before the addition and after the addition, as well as the building energy use, weather normalized and non-weather normalized. Before I talk about our building stock change calculator that's in the report, where I'll spend most of my time, just want to point out that there is a document called the building stock change document. It's a guidance document for how you can make these calculations without using our calculator. If you don't want to use the calculator for any reason, you can certainly do these calculations on your own, and you can refer to this guidance document. And please just, if you do decide to not use the calculator, describe for us how you came up with the numbers that you're putting in table 2, and just show us the math, if you will. So this is the building stock change calculator in all its 14 column wide glory. There is, I'll point out that the pink reddish box up top has some hopefully clear instructions on how to go through this. Just wanted to show the calculator in its entirety. We're going to zoom in on a couple sections at a time, just because it's not really easy to read when you're zoomed out this far. So this is a zoomed in look at the first half, if you will, of the calculator. And we're going to go through these two buildings one column at a time, and through the calculator one column at a time. So the first thing that you'd want to enter is, instead of it saying building 1 and building 2, you'd enter the name of the building that you are adjusting the energy use for. Then in the next column, you would be putting in the square footage for that building or those buildings. If it's a new building, it'd be what was the square footage of the old building, and if it's an addition, it's what was the square footage of the building before the addition. So the senior center is a new building, and the DPW building is an addition. And then in the next column, you would be entering the square footage for the new senior center and for the DPW building with the addition. The third column, which is green, pre-populates, and it is showing the amount of the percentage of the energy that you're including in your report. So for the senior center, the new senior center is 36% bigger than the old one, and so you're only going to include 64% of the energy use, and same for the DPW building. So the next piece of information you need to enter is the non-weather normalized energy use, which is essentially the energy use that you have on MEI, or the energy use that's on your bills. You can find that for MEI users on ERP guidance table 3B. This is not a list of buildings that are part of the sample that we're doing today, but this is an example of guidance table 3B. You can see on the far right, that's the total MMBTU for the buildings listed. So you would take that number and put it into the cells there. The next column is asking you how long the building has been online for, and this is really for building additions. If we're talking about a new building, you just want to enter the number 12. But if you are talking about the DPW building, where the addition came online halfway through the fiscal year, you would want to enter 6, because we only want to prorate the energy use for those last 6 months of the fiscal year. The first 6 months of the fiscal year, we're not prorating the energy use. So that's what that column is doing. And then finally, in the next green cells in the column to the right of that, that is the prorated energy use for those 2 buildings. You would then go through the same process in terms of energy use for the weather normalized energy use. And again, on MEI, you can find that in a couple different places, but I'd suggest going to the annual building energy use weather normalized page. You need to hover your cursor over the bar graph, and it will the electric use will pop up when you hover over the orange piece, and then the gas use will pop up over the blue piece. And if you have other fuels, then the same goes for them, and you just need to add those numbers up and put them into the calculator. As Joanne mentioned, the weather normalized data is a little somewhat wonky in some places for some buildings, so if you are running into some of those glitches, definitely reach out to me or your regional coordinator. Finally, once those numbers are entered, your weather normalized prorated energy use would be calculated, and that's what those numbers are on the far right. And then if we go to the next part of the calculator, which you're seeing pop up below, but this would be to the right in the actual calculator, the first column is showing your total non-weather normalized energy use for both of those buildings. The next one is showing the total non-weather normalized prorated energy use for both of those buildings. And then this orange one is showing the difference between the two, and that is the number that needs to be subtracted from your total energy consumption. Then same goes for the weather normalized. That's your total weather normalized for both buildings. This is your total prorated weather normalized energy use for both buildings. And then again, you have the difference between the two. And again, that is the adjustment number. So these two adjustment numbers, the negative numbers, will automatically populate into your table 2 progress and will be subtracted from your total energy use, and then your adjustment will be complete for that year. As I said, any questions on this, feel free to reach out to me if you're in the Northeast region, or to your regional coordinator, whoever that may be.
Terrific. Thank you, Neil. And I want to give a shout out to Neil for putting together that building stock calculator last year. I think a number of communities have found it useful and an easy way to calculate for building changes through their communities. I'm going to talk about another way in which you can prorate your energy use, and that's for communities that have buildings in a regional school district that they're taking, that are part of their energy use baseline. So what you would need to do is go in MEI into the regional school district table 2, which shows their total MMBTUs, and you need to report what those are. And in our sample community, their proportion of the regional school district's energy that they're claiming is 45%. So what you would do is multiply the baseline energy use for the regional school district by 45%, and the reporting year, in this case 2018, by 45%. And again, you would do it for normalized and weather normalized and non-weather normalized. And again, if this is your first annual report, you need to do this for all the years you're reporting. If you didn't submit last year, you need to do this for 2017 and 2018. So this information you will add to table 2. For weather normalized and non-weather normalized. And now, for all intents and purposes, your table 2 is complete. that wasn't too hard. Going back to our overview of the Green Communities Criterion 3 overview, we're not quite done yet, however. There's a few more questions we want you to ask. You note the yellow spaces there. For our sample community, this is where you would indicate that you're claiming 45% of your regional school district's energy use. Question number 4 says, complete Table 4 energy conservation measures. We're going to go to that in just a second, but the state number here refers to communities that are using their performance contract annual reports as a way to report on energy conservation measures that they have completed in the past year. So there's some regulatory requirements in terms of filing those reports with us. So we just ask for the date if that's one of your community, if you're one of those communities. Our sample community is not, so I just put not applicable there. And then question 5 refers to whether you have any renewable energy projects that are feeding directly into a building that you need to account for. And please answer yes or no for that. Okay, so now we're going to go back to Table 4, which is where you would list your energy conservation measures. Those of you who've been with us for a while, don't panic that this is blank. We're deciding this year again. We just want you to update this. We don't need you to report on projects you've completed in 2013, 2014, et cetera. We already have that in our master file. So we basically just want to know what's new since your last annual report. And again, if you need a copy of your last annual report and you can't find it, contact your regional coordinator. They'll be happy to send it to you so you can update this table. So basically, we want to know what's new and update information from last year's report, or if this is your first report, this is your Table 4 from your energy reduction plan. What have you done? What has been completed? And here's a sample. And you'll notice also that Table 4 looks very close, very much alike to your grant table, and that's done on purpose to make it easy for you to cut and paste from one document to another. And here, in this sample here, you will see that all the dates are for the reporting year or for the future, and things have noted complete this year, things that are noted as active that are still ongoing, some things have been planned, etc. So we just want this information updated. Sorry, hit the wrong button. Okay, Table 5 refers to renewable energy that is feeding directly into your building. And in our sample here, there's a solar project on a roof. It's conventionally net metered. We want to know about it, and this information should also be in MassEnergyInsight. Again, just move back to the Criteria 3 overview. There's 2 more questions we want you to answer, and this is where you can tell us what's going on. Question 6 is a narrative, basically. Tell us what's going on in your community. Have building use changes. In the sample narrative here, it talks about a library being open more hours a week and a future project at the DPW. And then just highlighting the building stock change information here. This is number 7. This is where you would indicate that in our sample community, the DPW building opened on January 1st, and the senior center, the new senior center opened as well. So this is where you would include that information. And again, we just want to know new information for this year. We know about the new library you built in 2013. If you told us about it already, we save all that data. So again, in terms of trying to simplify things and not have you repeat things to us over and over again, we want to know what's new. Okay, we are done with Criterion 3. Now we're going to talk a bit about vehicles. This is the vehicle policy tab you could see circled on the bottom there. And this is a form that consists of a series of questions. Please answer them. You'll see the select yes or no on the right-hand column. Please answer them. And then additionally, there's some other questions, particularly questions 9 and 10 for communities with alternative compliance policies. So these would be communities that do not have non-exempt vehicles that had indicated they'd be doing other activities. So we want updates on those. Among the questions on this form include, did you replace or purchase a new vehicle? Did you install any charging stations? Did you install any anti-idling technology? There we go, sorry. And one of the big changes this year is how we ask for you to report your vehicle changes. I'm going to zoom in on a minute, so don't go blind trying to read this. But instead of you giving us your entire vehicle inventory, we're just asking for changes. So Table 6 has actually been divided into two separate tables. The top part is for new acquisitions, and then the bottom part is for vehicles that have been retired from the fleet. And again, for this year, we only want what is new, what has changed. So since you last gave us an annual report, what new vehicles did you acquire? What vehicles did you retire? Here's a close-up on the acquisition part. In our sample community, acquired several new vehicles. One of which you'll notice, the Chevy Silverado was transferred from the engineers department to Parks and Rec. And you can do that provided the vehicle meets the MPG requirements under the fuel efficient vehicle policy, which that vehicle does. And you'll see in the yellow columns there indicating yes, it's a new acquisition, or yes, it was transferred, and then asking you what vehicle did it replace, if it replaced a vehicle. You'll notice that one of the police cruisers didn't replace a vehicle. It's just an addition to the fleet, so you would just indicate that. And then in the case of the Chevy Silverado, it's indicated that it's been transferred. And here's a up-close look on that. And then the bottom side is the retirements. So the vehicles, the large dump truck replaced the Chevy dump. Old police cruiser was retired, and an old Crown Vic that the assessor was using was retired in place of the Ford Focus. So you can see the Crown Vic, row 42, there's row 42 there, the top line there. So that way it makes it easy for us to check that the vehicles that you're replacing meet the policy, and it just makes it easier to report either one. Criterion 5 is reporting on the stretch code, and here's another key change to the report. There's just a few questions we want you to answer. You'll see them in yellow. Please select yes or no. For commercial new construction, please let us know if any permits have been issued for large new commercial construction. And then in the open yellow space, please provide any anecdotal information about experiences with the stretch code, et cetera. Over the years, you folks haven't been shy, and we appreciate the feedback that you provide. Again, this is a way for us to formalize how you're experiencing your green communities status on the ground. So please let us know. And then probably the biggest change is you do not need to report HERS ratings to us. We will look them up using ResNet. So hopefully this will ease a lot of burdens with a lot of the new communities. And then the very last tab in the report is other information you might want to tell us. This is where some communities will tell us about their net metering credits or there's the solar projects that they're implementing. This is where they might tell us that they're a heat smart community or they're doing a clean community aggregation. You can leave these blank or you can tell us as much as you want. But again, this is another way for you to communicate to us how things are going in your community. And with that, I'll leave it to questions. Thank you for your attention. I know it was a lot to go through. And again, we will be posting these on the web in a couple of days. Okay, we're looking at some questions. So question 1, why did municipalities not receive pre-filled annual reports this year? The main reason is that we did not fill in that table 4 because that's information we already have, and for a number of communities that table has become quite large and a little unwieldy, and we're starting to miss projects and things, so we've just kept that clean. And in terms of other places where we filled in information, I guess the only other places would be the zoning and permitting information, and we would hope that you would remember how you qualify to be a green community, but if you didn't, reach out to your regional coordinator. And also because we'll be having 185 communities reporting to us, to have our staff pre-fill each and every report was somewhat of a burden, so we stopped doing that. Second question is, do we reach out to our regional coordinators if we're having trouble uploading vehicle and fuel information into MEI? I would say so, but first, double check the FAQ on MassEnergyInsight. They do provide, I think, pretty clear instructions on how to structure the format in which they want it uploaded. But if you're having difficulties, yeah, do reach out to your regional coordinators. They can walk you through it. Okay, so another question is, does DOER still want communities to include data from the years in between the baseline and the current reporting year in Table 2? Excellent question. So we want you to update the information that you last gave us. So if you submitted an annual report to us in 2017, we will have all the data from your baseline year through 2017 from last year. This year, what we're going to do is update our master file with the FY18 data. So if you already reported the other data to us, you don't need to report it to us again. You just report the baseline year and the FY18 year. Feel free to report it if you want, but we're not requiring you to do so. If you have not submitted an annual report to us yet, we will need the information going back to your baseline year. I know a number of the newer communities that are submitting this year have FY15 baselines, some have FY16, and 2 of you have FY14 baselines. And in those cases, I think they're both yours, Neil. Reach out to your regional coordinator. They'll help you figure that out.
So it looks like the next question has to do with the building stock change calculator, and someone is asking why you enter 12 months for a new building. What about overlap of 2 buildings? So when you enter 12 in the calculator, it will prorate all of the energy use for that building. So if you have a new building and an old building, the energy use that you're putting in, that you're getting from MEI, is for that new building, rather than the energy use for the same building that has been added on to. So it's a little bit complicated. Happy to explain it more offline, but essentially if you have a new building and an old building, the new building has new accounts in the energy use. All of that energy use for the new building should be prorated, whereas a building with an addition, you don't want to prorate all of the energy use for that year if the addition happened partially through the year. So hopefully that answer makes sense, but that's the reason.
Another building stock question: how do you report repurposed space within an existing building, i.e., upper story of town hall converted from storage to meeting space? That would depend on how your town hall account in MassEnergyInsight was set up. If you only included the, say, the bottom floor of conditioned space in your MassEnergyInsight account, so in terms of the square footage, and you did not include the storage space as part of town hall, then yes, you would. That storage space would be considered an addition. But if you included the square footage of the storage space within your town hall square footage, then you would not at this point. Okay, we're still reading a couple of questions here.
So it looks like the same question about the building stock change calculator. If there's a new building halfway through, do you put in the number 12? And hopefully I answered that. But yeah, you'd still want to put in the number 12 because it would prorate the energy use for that new building, even though it's 6 months worth of energy use. You're just going to have to trust me that it's going to prorate the energy use, all of the energy use, rather than half of it. If you put in 6, it would only prorate half. We have a question that says, why does MMBTU change show as positive when it went down? I assume that's for the calculator, and I'm not sure what that is referring to, but the adjustment that you would make is it's a negative number, so you're subtracting the extra energy consumption essentially from your total energy consumption. There's another question here. Do we enter solar that we've already reported before, or do we keep in the report or leave blank?
I would put it in, provided it's, again, solar that is conventionally net metered. That way we can just double check that it's already in MassEnergyInsight.
Okay, we've got one more question. If my town did not submit an annual report for 2017, should I report all vehicles acquired or removed in 2017 on the vehicle inventory?
Excellent question. Yes, we would like you to report changes to your inventory since you last reported to us. So if the last report or last information we received was from FY16, then yes, please report changes in your inventory for both years.
Okay, another good question here. Is there a way for communities to request a list of the HERS ratings from DOER for permits issued in their community for their own records?
Yes. Yes. So reach out to your regional coordinator if that's information you would like. We'll be able to get that to you. Answered that one. Okay, we're still looking through some of the questions. Thank you for your patience. I'd hum the Jeopardy song, but you don't want to hear that.
Okay.
It's a big one.
Okay, this is a complicated one. This may get referred to your regional coordinator, but we'll try to take a crack at it without jumping too far into the weeds. So, how should a community handle the following? A city builds a new fire station to replace an old one. The old fire station will be kept by the town and used for storage and will continue, at least temporarily, as part of the building stock. Would the new fire station count as a new building or a replacement for the purpose of the building stock calculator?
I would say it would be considered a replacement because it's functioning as a fire station and the other building is ceasing to function as a fire station. So yes, that would be a replacement.
And I would just add to that questions like that can sometimes be case by case. So those are great questions to reach out to me or the other regional coordinator so we can try to figure them out as they come, because there may not be one exact answer for those types of situations.
Exactly.
Oh, good. This is a tip, which we appreciate rather than a question. People should remember to allow time for selectmen to hold a meeting in order to sign certification after the report is completed, but before it is submitted on December 3rd. Very good suggestion, and thank you for mentioning that. So yeah, if you want to meet the deadline and you need the report to be signed by your Board of Selectmen, you definitely need to be on their agenda before that December 3rd deadline, and they hopefully want to review that report before they sign it.
All right, well, that's the end of our questions. Thank you again so much for tuning in. And if you have any questions regarding your annual report, please reach out to your regional coordinator. Thanks a lot. And remember, December 7th is the next webinar on the SMART program. Have a great afternoon, everyone.